Hello and welcome. It is Friday afternoon and I am here with you live, streaming both to our Facebook page and to LinkedIn. I am Amanda Farmer and I often like to be here with you live on a Friday afternoon. We have been doing fortnightly Friday lives since about March this year. We started it off when we all went into lockdown. I was calling it happy hour, and you may have noticed that today I have not pinned this live as Friday happy hour. We have been drinking since March. So I thought perhaps we need to shake things up a little bit. We may have some sore heads and some hangovers, if not from anything else, but from our big summit that we had a couple of weeks ago as well. So this Friday, not so much a happy hour, but you're welcome. You're welcome to bring with you whatever you would like to our Friday chat. I would like to keep doing our Friday afternoon live chats, but I'm going to put it out there to you guys to perhaps let me know what we should call it. Should we give our Friday live chats a new name if it's not going to be strictly happy hour? Some Fridays, definitely, we can have happy hour. But give me some ideas, guys. We're going to be talking about Strata stuff, of course, the crazy world that is apartment living. I'm going to be helping you solve some problems. I will be here answering your questions if you'd like to pop them into the comments and giving you what's really a wrap up of the week or of the fortnight that has been in Strata. What is the need to know that has been going on in our sector? What are some interesting cases that our tribunal has come out with? What's some new legislation that we need to know about? So that's my plan now for our Friday afternoons. I'd also like to keep bringing you special guests. If that's something you enjoy, let me know. We will keep doing that. But I'm putting it out there to you. Give me some ideas of what we might call our Friday catch up, our Strata solutions session, some bit of alliteration I always like. If you are coming in, feel free to say hi. I'm seeing you there, Gary, saying hi. Hello. We are also over on LinkedIn. So if you're coming in through LinkedIn, drop me a hello. I mentioned there a bit of a hangover from the summit. We had such a bad hangover that we forgot to change the banner on our Facebook page. So if anyone's been over to Facebook and seen the call to register for the summit, which ended 2 weeks ago, we've now changed that. So thank you, dear Rochelle, for picking that up for us and doing that today. Now, as I've said, if you have some Strata questions for me, I'm going to come back around to that comment section and I am happy to help you with whatever has been bothering you this week in Strata. So feel free, happy for a bit of randomness, guys. Strata related is always good, but feel free to pop them over into the comment section. But otherwise, today I am going to be chatting about the topic that was on the podcast this week, episode 233 we released. It is titled Strata Lawyers and Strata Managers, the Elephant in the Apartment. If you haven't caught that one, go and have a listen. Rochelle's going to put the link in the comments here on Facebook for us. If you are watching on LinkedIn, we don't post these comments over on we don't post these links over on LinkedIn. But if you would like them, please do pop us a comment and we'll make sure that we reply there for you and give you these links. So I'm going to come back around to share with you some of the feedback that I have received after publishing that podcast episode. I am also going to fill you in on a couple of cases that have come from our New South Wales Tribunal, including the appeal panel. Actually, they're both from the appeal panel this week. One I mentioned on the podcast and one has just come out on Wednesday this week. I have a copy of that decision in my hot hands here, also from our appeal panel and very relevant to bylaws, the making of bylaws, the validity of bylaws, common property rights bylaws, and also approvals under Section 108 in our Strata Schemes Management Act. So really interesting, quite important decision there that's just come out on Wednesday. I'll come back around to that. We have new legislation that is due to commence, we have just heard this week in Queensland, new legislation for March 2021. And I'm going to fill you in a little bit on that. I'm also going to talk to you about bees Yes, bees, the insects. They're insects, right? Yes, insects, bees, and nuisance. And I'm also going to give you a little tip for how you might get some help with completing, writing, expressing your tribunal applications without having to go to the expense of hiring a lawyer. So that's the plan today, guys. How does that sound? Anybody who's just coming in, and there's more of you who've come in since I've started, not calling it happy hour, open to new ideas. Let's give it a name. Throw some words at me, guys. Let's see how we go. Here we're just flying by the seat of our pants here. More of you saying hi. Hey, Henry. Hey, Michael. Marcella, good to see you. Okay. All right. I can see a question there too. I will come back to that, Marcella. All righty. So this week's podcast episode. Who listened? What did you think, guys? On this episode, I was sharing a personal experience that I had within the last few weeks of communication from a strata manager who felt that some advice that I had given to a client who that strata manager had referred to me was adverse to that strata manager's interests, and they were a bit upset about that. I felt that discussing any of the advice that I'd given to that client with that strata manager would be to breach legal professional privilege. And it caused me to question, how often does this go on in our industry, that strata managers expect that the strata lawyers they refer work to will not give advice adverse to their interests, or will, absent instructions from the client, go and have a chat to the strata manager about that advice and perhaps reveal solicitor client privileged information. If you head over to the page where that podcast is published, as I know many of you do subscribe and see the show notes and the transcripts and all sorts of good stuff that happens over there, there are a few comments there in addition to what I've been receiving in my inbox. And the interesting thing to note is that most of these comments are from lot owners. At the moment, I am very interested to hear what strata managers may be thinking, what strata lawyers may be thinking after that episode, but I'm definitely receiving lots of messages of support, understanding, and agreement from lot owners who have found themselves apparently in similar positions. It has been mentioned to me that there are some lawyers who have refused to act for owners because they are seeking advice about a particular strata management company, and that lawyer feels that they have a conflict of interest, which could absolutely be the case, that a lawyer has a legal conflict of interest because that strata management company itself has been the lawyer's client previously, and they find that there's a conflict. They can't act against that client. But sometimes what I've seen is that the conflict is what I call a commercial conflict, not a legal conflict. And the lawyer simply won't act because they get a lot of work from that strata management company, and have decided that it's commercially not a position that they want to put themselves in. So, as I say on the podcast episode, for me, that raises concerns about lot owners being able to get advice from the lawyer of their choosing, someone who is experienced in strata law, someone who they want to represent them without fear or favor. And when owners don't have access to those lawyers because lawyers are concerned about their commercial interests, then I think we have a problem. So that's where we're at. The fallout so far from episode 233. If you haven't had a listen, go over and check it out. Please do post a comment under that episode. Let me know what you think. And again, I'd love to hear from strata managers. Silence is deafening, guys, if I can just say that. All righty. Now, what else has happened in the last week? Well, also mentioned on the podcast was a case from our appeal panel. This one came out a couple of weeks ago, 16th of September, New South Wales Tribunal Appeal Panel, Walker and the owners of Strata Plan 1992. We have a link to that one in the comments here for you as well. I said on the podcast this week that this was my win for the week. I really love this case. Why? Because we were talking about access to records of the owners corporation, specifically access to levy registers. And the appeal panel has made very clear that levy registers form part of the books and records of an owners corporation and absolutely should be made available for inspection by lot owners who make that request pursuant to the relevant provisions of our New South Wales legislation. So I am, as I say on the podcast, I'm involved in a case at the moment where access to levy registers has been denied for privacy reasons. The appeal panel has actually said that there are no considerations of privacy when it comes to accessing these kinds of records. The fact that the same information may be available in another document, for example, the financial statements, is no reason to withhold records that otherwise definitely should be forming part of the owner's corporation's books and records. So really important to have these cases published, these reasons accessible by owners, so that strata managers, secretaries in self-managed schemes who are holding records can understand what their obligations are to give access to books and records. As I say on the podcast, it's not the first case that's come out of our tribunal on this point. The other case is Leg, and we've got a link to that one as well under the podcast episode. All right, now, I meant to mention at the top of this episode, it's not an episode, Amanda, it's a live video. I meant to mention at the top of this live video that you may have noticed a little change in scenery here. I was chatting to Rena for the podcast a few days ago, and she said, Amanda, did you get some more furniture? No, I didn't get some more furniture. I'm in a different room. I changed rooms. Lots of shuffling over the weekend. Big job. Has anybody ever done that, where you think you're going to move a whole heap of furniture out and new furniture in, and you just think, this has taken 10 times longer than I expected. All day it took us on Sunday. I swapped rooms with my son. So my son now has what was the bigger room, the office that I had taken, having run a 4-day summit and done about 2 months plus of preparation. I realized I just need a desk. So I've moved into the smaller room, and that is why things are looking a little bit different. Still unpacking, still putting things together. So you'll notice little changes happening there, guys. One of my colleagues said to me recently, we need to see the rest of your apartment, Amanda. We're sick of just seeing the picture and the cupboards. And is there anything else? There is, yes. And keep tuning in. I may take you for a tour sometime soon. All right, now I did promise you as well another appeal panel case, which I didn't mention on the podcast. And I'm looking over here because I've got a copy of it here next to me on my desk. This just came out on Wednesday. It is the owner's Strata Plan 63731 and B&G Trading. Came out 30 September, Wednesday. I am aware of this case because I've been involved on the periphery of this case with one of the parties. And this is an important case because of its consideration of these provisions in our New South Wales law. Section 108, this is the section that says if you want to add to, alter, otherwise enhance the common property as a lot owner, then you need a special resolution. Also, Section 143, which is the section about common property rights bylaws. If you want some kind of special privilege over the common property, then you need a special resolution and a bylaw. Also, Section 109, cosmetic work, 110, minor work, and 111, which is really the overarching provision in New South Wales that sets out how you can legally do work and sets out the kinds of approvals that you need if you are going to do work affecting the common property. This is the first case since our legislation, our 2015 Act in New South Wales started in November 2016, that explains or attempts to grapple with how all of those sections work together. And it's something that we strata lawyers have been talking about and been grappling with ourselves for our clients for some time. How do they all work together? In some places, they seem to conflict. If you have a common property rights bylaw that allows you exclusive use over the common property, if you then want to do work to that common property within that exclusive use area, do you also need a Section 108 special resolution on top of that? Are they the same thing? Does one cancel out the other? Well, what our appeal panel has said on Wednesday in this case is that they are not the same thing. You do need a Section 108 special resolution if you are going to do work to the common property, adds to, alters, otherwise enhances the common property, even if you have a common property rights bylaw that gives you exclusive use over that area of the common property. Of course, we need to be considering all of our bylaws on their terms, and this shouldn't at all be considered to be the rule, but have a read of that case if you've ever been concerned or interested in, and I know it's come up in our membership community in the Q&A forum a number of times, how all these provisions work together and what they mean. The drafting of our legislation definitely could be better in this respect and with these sections, and I'm sure this is going to be on the agenda when we're looking at reviewing our Strata Schemes Management Act in New South Wales over the coming few months. That's definitely on the table. But I will be continuing to digest the reasoning in that case. You'll probably see the lawyers talking about it shortly and how it may impact approvals that owners think they have, thought they had, want to get, and the drafting of our bylaws moving forward to make sure that as lawyers, we're protecting our lot owners, we're protecting our owners' corporations, and making sure that bylaws are correctly referencing the right sections of the law to make sure that they are valid and can withstand challenge. So that is the other important, interesting appeal panel case that's come from New South Wales this week. I'm seeing a comment there from Henry saying, suggested new name for happy hour, Farmers Strata Stable. I like it. I like it. Very good. I like the play on the farmer there, Henry. Excellent. Yes, if you're coming in, I have put the call out there to rename our Friday chats. We can have happy hour and bring your cocktails, bring your glass of wine. You know, I'm all up for that. But we've been drinking since March, so we might just rename, have a refresh, and I will continue to be bringing you our special guests as well, guys. That is something that I am looking forward to. I'm seeing some questions that are popping into the comments as well. If you have Strata questions for me, I've set the time aside, guys. I am here. I'm happy to answer your questions. One of my most favorite things to do when we are on a live chat, whether it's in person, doing a speaking event or a webinar, or here, happy to answer your questions. My dear Rochelle, who always helps me here in the background, and many of you know from emailing her and chatting to her in the membership, has just reminded me to do this. I always forget to do that. And there is Henry with his suggestion for a new name. You're first up there, Henry. Thank you, Rochelle, for that tip. I'm going to put Henry back there. And Petra is here. Hey, Petra, how are you going? If you're here, feel free to drop me a hello. I am going to move on to give you a little summary of what's happened in Queensland this week when it comes to new regulations. Queenslanders have had an announcement that new body corporate regulations will be commencing in March 2021. We were talking about this on the podcast back in episode number 219 when I chatted to Michael Kleinschmidt of Stratum Legal. This has been a long process for Queensland, as it often is when it comes to legislative reform, but it did catch my eye this week that these new proposed new regulations have now been announced. And as well as the link to my chat with Michael, which I think Rochelle's going to pop in the comments there for you. We also have, I apologize, I don't have a link for the new regulations, but I'll come back and put that in for you. The summary seems to be that the new regs are going to facilitate electronic voting and attendance at meetings, including the use of live electronic voting and remote personal attendance by teleconference and video conference. This live electronic voting, if you haven't caught my chat with Matt Larwood of Strata Vote, that is their newest technology that they are building. And I'm not sure if it's been released yet, but it was on its way, about to be released when I was chatting to Matt a few weeks ago. And that is where you're actually in the meeting and can cast your vote, and it's cast through the software system and is calculated and recorded. I know Strata managers are patching that together themselves at the moment using the poll feature in Zoom and the hands up feature and little things like that. But now our software is being developed to facilitate all of that. And that's my dog, who is very well behaved and only barks when I'm on a live video. Okay, what else is happening in Queensland with their new regulations? Their regs are going to facilitate the use of email, other forms of electronic communication, to clarify and improve the list of documents that developers must provide to the body corporate, encourage the early identification and remedy of building defects, requiring the body corporate to consider a motion and prepare a defect assessment report at its second annual general meeting. So that's a little summary of what's happening there with the regs. It is probably time soon for me to have another Queensland practitioner back on the show to talk to us about that in a little bit more detail. That might be a good idea for another Friday Live. I'll come back and put the link to that legislation in the comments there for you guys so that you can have access to that. That is the roundup of what's happening in Queensland. It's not all that's happening in Queensland. Queenslanders tell me what's going on. I don't know because I can't go there. That's a bit cheeky. All right. Now, today I heard something very interesting and I put it on my list to chat to you guys about. People in Sydney, inner city, these are townhouses, strata, but townhouses in a very nice part of inner city of Sydney. And I've been told by the committee today that people are in their backyards keeping bees. Bees, the insects, yes, that make the honey. That is very nice to eat. But the concern, and I hadn't thought about this, the concern is that the bees are causing a nuisance. The bees are swarming. The bees are traveling to the neighboring backyard. And there are people in the property who are anaphylactic to bees. So they are seriously allergic, have a life-threatening allergy to bees. And the committee said, Amanda, we've looked at our bylaws and we're not really sure how to deal with this. And the City of Sydney Council, which is the local municipality, allows this. And indeed, some of you may have seen some media about this. I don't know, it was about a year or 2 years ago, encourages this kind of beekeeping. And there's a whole practice around this urban beekeeping. And it's because the habitat for bees is being destroyed, and bees are really, really important to our ecosystem and making sure that everything works the way that it should. So people are keeping bees in strata, thinking they're doing a fabulous thing for nature. And now we're having this knock-on effect that they are causing a nuisance or a hazard. And I've just said those words, which may give you a little tip as to what I advised this committee where they could go to deal with this problem, even though it is not dealt with in their bylaws. And that is, of course, Section 153 of our Strata Schemes Management Act, which says that lot owners cannot create a nuisance or a hazard on their lot or on the common property. And if they are doing that, then the owners corporation can go to the tribunal and seek an order that they cease. And we see this used quite often in the context of smoking. So where there is smoke drift and people smoking, then the Section 153 nuisance provision is used to deal with that. I don't know, strata managers tell me. I haven't seen it come up in the context of bees, but I thought it was a pretty good example of something that is causing, has the potential to cause a nuisance or a hazard, especially when you have people who are allergic and who are living right next door to a beehive and the bees are swarming. That's something that would be concerning to me and difficult to control, I imagine. But that's a new one. It doesn't often come up that there are things that I haven't heard before, but when I do, I think that's it. That's why we love Strata, guys. These interesting questions arising. Okay, now I am shortly going to go over thank you, Rochelle. Rochelle has put a link in there for me for the Queensland regulations or the summary there. I'm going to go back over to Marcella's question, and I have invited you guys to pop in questions. We definitely have time for questions if you have them, whether they're about bees or not. Marcella is saying about a committee member being financial at the time of voting. Oh, that's the levy registers, I think, Marcella. You're tapping into, if you've listened to the podcast, we want access to the levy registers to see if people are financial at the time of voting. And Marcella says, we've taken over management. Past tax invoices had 5 owners corporations on one tax invoice. It seems like there are multiple breaches using this, but previous management sees no issue. What was the tax invoice for, Marcella? Is this a supplier like a gardener or somebody who is doing work for various owners corporations and just issuing a one tax invoice to numerous owners corporations? Yes, I can't see that that is an invoice that an owners corporation could pay on. It is not addressed to them. Marcella is saying, yes, good. It is not addressed to them and shouldn't be paid. I imagine if accounts are audited, and in New South Wales, we don't need to, it's not mandatory to audit accounts for smaller buildings or buildings where the budget is less than 250,000. I think that's right. Less than 250,000. It's not mandatory, but we do find that most buildings do opt in to do an audit. Something like that would be picked up, I'm sure, and the auditor would say, no good. What's the fallout from that? I don't know if the committee is saying they want to do something about that. I'm not sure that there'd be a path to follow there. Safe to say, good that they're now with you, Marcella, if you're the new manager, and understand that that's a no-no. Something that we see quite often come up in Strata is that suppliers, contractors, whether it's the gardener, whether it's the lawyer, whoever it is, issuing the invoice for work done and addressing it incorrectly, often addressing it to the Strata manager, and not understanding that the legal entity, the client to whom the invoice should be addressed, is indeed the building, the owner's corporation. And what I say to Strata managers, I say it to committees, if that invoice is not properly addressed, it should not be paid. Another thing that we see come up is that invoices are addressed to committee members, to the chairperson, to the secretary, to the person who organised the work. It's important that that invoice is properly addressed for all of your auditing, tax, GST purposes. And if the invoice is not correctly addressed, don't hesitate to go back to that supplier and say, we ain't paying you. You're not going to get your money, honey, unless this invoice has been issued correctly, and this is how it should be done. So thank you for raising that question, Marcella. Always a good one to get into. Now, in our member forum recently, we have had some discussion about tribunal applications, tribunal litigation. A lot of people, being a tribunal that is where legal representation is not allowed as of right. You have to request leave for legal representation. We have a lot of people who self-represent, who appear without lawyers and are doing their best to get their applications right, to get their responses right, to put together their documents and their material in the way that they feel they're supposed to, in a way the tribunal will understand, and in a way that they can best put forward their case. And we often talk in our forum about the right words to use, the right way to put these applications together. And one of our members has very generously brought to my attention that she runs a business where she actually helps people to write their resumes. And particularly at a time when we've got quite a few people around the country looking for new work, she's really found her niche in helping people, particularly where English may be a second language, or putting together documents like this is not something that they feel confident doing, that she's able to help them do that. And she has said that she can also help people write their tribunal material. And of course, she's not a lawyer, it's not legal advice, but someone who is self-represented and wants some help with how to express themselves. She's put up her hand and said that she can help with that. Now, her name is Caitlin McHugh, and her business is Resume Refresh. .com.au, and Rochelle's going to pop a link in there to the notes. I told her that I would very happily share that here today, because I think, the last few years running the membership, being more and more in touch with owners who perhaps don't have a Strata manager, who perhaps can't afford legal representation, and they're trying to get as much help as they can through services like what I provide and what many other very good services out there provide. often it's not complex stuff that people need help with. It's how to word something. It's how to lay it out. It's how to set something out in a way that's understandable and can be followed by someone who has absolutely no idea about the history of your case, what you've been through. And that's often the job of the lawyer, to be able to express complex terms, a complex situation in an easy to understand way. And if you can do that, you are 90% of the way there. So somebody who can write well, who can help you to express yourself, if you can get them on board, if you're not otherwise engaging a lawyer, I can't see how that would be a bad thing. So thank you very much, Caitlin, for sharing that service. It is one that I am happy to recommend. Now, goodness, that is how time flies. And this is why I have guests, guys, because that is 30 minutes of lots and lots of talking. I'm going to have a rest very shortly. It has been wonderful to see you all here. Henry has given me that excellent suggestion for naming our Friday afternoon chats. I'm just trying to scroll back to it, Henry, about my Farmer Strata stable. Got it. We will write that one down. Feel free to keep them coming. If you are watching this back afterwards, give me some more suggestions for naming our Friday afternoon chats. I am happy to be here with you, bringing you what the week has held here at the coalface of Strata Lawyering. And what I hope is that I'll also hear from you guys, what you've been going through, what questions you've had, how I can help you to solve some problems. If you've been following me for a while, you know that talking about this Strata stuff is something I don't really get bored of and very much enjoy doing. So it's always lovely to be here with you on a Friday afternoon. And thank you for being here with me. Go have a lovely weekend. The weather is fabulous in Sydney at the moment. That's why I'm here in my t-shirt, been out enjoying it, and I'm off to do the same. So I will catch you next time, guys. Have a fab weekend. Bye-bye.